Hey guys, tonight we're heading into the heart of Widow's Hollow, a forest so quiet, even the birds hold their breath once the sun goes down. The trees here are ancient and hunched, like they're whispering secrets they've kept for 200 years. You stand at the trailhead, flashlight in hand, breath fogging in the moonlight. And even though your friends laugh behind you, you know this isn't the kind of night where you all come back smiling. You're here on a dare. A dumb one, dear, but that's what summer does to you. Someone said if you see the lantern and follow it all the way, you'll find a buried treasure. Someone else said you'll never come back. Honestly, both could be true. And you're the brave one tonight. Or maybe just the one with the least self-preservation instincts. Either way, you're the first to step past the no trespassing after dark sign. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments, just so I know who's staying up late with me. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The path through Widow's Hollow crunches under your boots like brittle bones. There's no breeze. The air feels like it's watching you. Even your phone has no bars, as if cell service looked at this forest and noped out. The group behind you, 5 in total, are doing their best to act chill. There's Devin, always narrating like he's filming a documentary. Sarah, who wears sarcasm like armor. Twins, Milo and Mira, who talk only to each other. And Cass, your best friend, and the one who dared you all in the first place. Cass is the kind of person who doesn't get scared, just bored. I heard it floats about 2 feet off the ground, she says, kicking a branch aside. Lantern's old, like Civil War old. You roll your eyes, but deep down you're picturing it. The rusted frame, the glass fogged with age, the fire inside somehow still burning. And then you see it. It appears without warning, just beyond the tree line, floating gently, flickering like a real flame, but steady, like it knows exactly where it's going. No sound, no footsteps, just light, moving. Everyone stops, even Devin. Nope, Milo says instantly. Yep, Cass replies. And before anyone can object, she's following it. You go after her, because that's what you do. Even when the temperature drops 5 degrees in an instant. Even when you feel like something ancient just woke up. Some say these stories started with settlers in the early 1800s. Farmers who built too close to old burial mounds. Others say the woods were cursed after a widow, blamed for a string of deaths, vanished with her child, and was never seen again. The truth, like most ghost stories, is probably a mix of both, or neither. Historians still argue whether the widow was even real. You follow the lantern for a good 15 minutes. It weaves, dips, dodges between trees, always just far enough to be out of reach, but never out of sight. Then it stops, directly above a hollow in the earth, a pit, maybe 5 feet across, just sunken, like the forest exhaled in one spot and never bothered to breathe back in. And the lantern, it vanishes, gone, like someone blew it out. No one moves. Until Sarah says, "That's it? We hiked all this way for a flashlight gag?" You don't answer, because you're staring at the ground. The soil's darker here, softer, and something metallic glints from beneath a patch of moss. You kneel, brush it back, and there it is, a handle. You pull hard. The object creaks as it breaks free. It's a box, old, iron, almost fused, shut with rust and time. Someone, maybe you, pries it open with a rock and a lot of effort. The lid groans like a coffin. Inside, wrapped in yellowed cloth and dust, is a book. Leather-bound, warped with age. The edges scorched as if it once survived a fire. No title. But when you flip it open, in looping, faded script, the first page reads, "The Journal of Clara Bell, October 11th, 1861. And beneath that, in smaller handwriting, almost frantic, "This is not a story. It is a warning." You glance at the others, half expecting one of them to laugh, to say, "Okay, this is the part where we all get murdered, right?" But nobody laughs, not even Devin. The woods are holding their breath again. And so are you. Cass takes the journal from your hands, her thumbs brushing the charred edge of the first page. "Clara Bell," she murmurs. "I swear, I've heard that name before." Mira nods. "She was the preacher's daughter, wasn't she? My grandma used to tell stories about her. Said she was cursed, or maybe she cursed the town. Depends on which version you get." Devin pulls out his phone reflexively, but yep, still no signal. "Guess we're going analog tonight." So you sit, right there in the dirt, backs against roots, knees up, like middle schoolers at a horror movie sleepover. The moon is fat and clear above you, painting everything silver blue. The pit looks shallower now, somehow, like the box was always meant to be removed. Cass reads aloud, slow and clear. "October 11th, 1801. I have seen the lantern again. That makes the 4th time. It comes when the moon is full and the air is heavy. It moves like it remembers the path better than I do. Everyone leans in. They say I should stop going to the woods alone, but I cannot help it. She waits for me there. Not in the way a friend waits. Not like my sister used to. She waits like the trees do. Like she was always there, and I'm only just noticing her shape." Sarah mutters, "Creepy much?" You keep reading. The journal speaks in spirals, all looping thoughts and half-whispered secrets. Clara was young, maybe 16, maybe 17, but she wrote with the weary voice of someone twice that. Mother says the hollow is wicked. She says the fog eats prayers and the crows don't sing for a reason. but I met her there, Eloise, and she is nothing like they say. Devon raises an eyebrow. Eloise? Mira cuts in. The witch. Cass snaps her fingers. That's it. The Hollow Witch. That's what the legend calls her. Didn't she? No spoilers, you say quickly. Let the dead tell their own story. Cass flips the page. But something's changed. You all saw the page before. It had one paragraph, maybe two. But now there are four. And the ink is still drying. Did you write this? She asks. Nobody answers, because nobody's moving. And the woods just got a little darker. She reads the new lines. Tonight, she showed me the flame. Not of the lantern, the real flame. The one that feeds on promises. She said it remembers. That's why it never dies. She said if I take the oath, I'll never be alone again. That's when Devon's light flickers and dies. Battery's fine, he says, smacking it. What the? Then Milo's goes out, and Sarah's. One by one, every flashlight sputters and dies, until only the moonlight remains, and then the lantern reappears. It hovers 10 feet away, flickering low to the ground, just as Cass described, silent, watching. Okay, that's enough, Milo says, getting to his feet. This isn't fun anymore. But you're frozen, because something about the light feels wrong. It isn't casting shadows. You squint, try to make sense of it. Historically, lanterns from the 1860s burned whale oil or kerosene. They flickered and smelled and left soot everywhere, but this one, no smell, no heat, no movement of air. Maybe it's one of those battery-powered ones, Sarah offers weakly, her voice thinning. Sure, Mira says. From 1861. Cass takes a step toward it. Cass, don't, you begin, but she's already moving. And just like before, it vanishes, gone. No puff of smoke, no retreat, just not there. And in its place, where the light once hovered, another hole smaller. But something glints inside. You dig again, fingers raw now, heart thudding behind your ribs like a warning drum. You pull up a second object, a brooch, twisted and scorched, the metal warped and fused to a bit of cloth. You don't know why, but you tuck it into your pocket. Cass is staring at the journal. It changed again, she whispers. She's right. The latest page has rewritten itself. New lines, fresh ink. She burned the brooch to mark the pact, so I would never forget. So I could always find my way back, even if I wanted to leave. Okay, I vote we do leave, Devon says, voice too high to sound casual, like now. But no one moves, because from deep in the woods, from somewhere just past where the lantern vanished, comes a sound none of you expected. A woman's laugh, soft, sad, like someone remembering a joke they regret telling. The laughter stops, just like that, cut clean, mid-breath, as though someone turned down the volume on the world. The silence that follows is worse. It's too total, too deliberate. like the forest is holding a pose, waiting to see what you'll do next. Sarah breaks the spell first. "I'm out," she says, backing up. "No journal, no pact, no enchanted brooch is worth this." You don't blame her. You're thinking the same thing. But your legs aren't moving because Cass is still holding the journal, and it's still changing. She flips the page, one you're certain was blank before. New handwriting scrolls across it in tight, hurried ink. October 13th, 1861, the night she gave me the brooch. She also gave me the box. "In case you change your mind," she said. But I didn't. Not then. I was tired of being nobody's daughter, nobody's friend. She said the lantern would always remember me, even when people forgot. Milo frowns. "So the lantern's alive, or enchanted," Mira adds. "Or a metaphor," Devon offers, because of course he does. Cass keeps reading. "The hollow speaks when the moon is full. That's when the ground grows soft enough to listen. That's when she shows me the fire under the roots. You don't realize you're gripping your knees until your fingers go numb. The fire under the roots. You glance at the hollow pit where the first box was found. The soil there had been soft, unnaturally so. You had thought it was just the moisture or time. Now you're not so sure." And then Cass reads a name aloud. "Eloise Harrow." The group quiets. That name, Harrow, sticks in your ears like static. You've heard it before, probably in one of those spooky 10 haunted legends YouTube videos that autoplay when you're too lazy to hit stop. Eloise Harrow was supposedly one of the last women in this region accused of witchcraft. Local legend had her doing all the greatest hits, cursing crops, floating on water, whispering to ravens, dancing barefoot in the hollow under full moons. But here's the part the legends skip. Eloise never stood trial. Historians still argue whether she was ever officially accused or just disappeared before the town could make it official. Some say she fled into the woods. Others claim she became the woods. You stare out past the trees, imagining what it would be like to live here in 1861. No lights, no roads, just wilderness and superstition. And maybe, if this journal is to be believed, one girl desperate enough to make a deal with someone ancient. "Look at this," Mira whispers, pointing at the inside cover. You hadn't noticed it before. The journal has a fold, like a hidden flap. Inside is a diagram, a star, 6-pointed, with scribbled notes at each tip. Memory, blood, fire, voice, bone, mirror. Devon squints. That's not ominous at all. You run your fingers over the sketch. The paper feels warm. Cass reads another line. "I buried the brooch after she left to see if the fire would still find me. It did. The flame floated back, even brighter, like it was angry I'd tried to forget." Sarah whispers, "You think that's what we saw? That's why it showed up?" You don't answer, because behind you, the woods groan. Not like branches moving, more like breath. I really think we should go now, Devin says. This is officially above our spook tolerance level. But no one gets up. Instead, Cass does something unbelievably stupid. She tears the diagram from the back of the journal. Maybe there's more buried, she says, her eyes alight with a mix of fear and fascination. Maybe the journal's just the beginning. You open your mouth to protest, but she's already on her feet, tracing the tips of the star on the diagram with her thumb. Blood, fire, mirror. What if they're locations, ritual steps? Mira, quiet all this time, says softly, she didn't write this for fun. She was trying to end something. Cass doesn't hear her, or doesn't care. Instead, she points to a small clearing sketched beside one of the star points. There, that's not far. If we follow that line of birch trees, and because you're terrible at saying no to her, you go. It takes 10 minutes to find the spot. It's not marked by a symbol, not by a stone, not by anything, except the lantern, waiting for you again. You freeze. Cass, of course, walks toward it, but this time, the lantern doesn't vanish. Instead, it moves toward her. It floats with a strange, deliberate rhythm. Up, pause, down, pause. Almost like breathing, it stops right in front of her chest and hovers there. You think this is where she screams, but she doesn't. Instead, she says calmly, "It's warm." And then, without warning, the lantern tips forward and dips into her chest. Not through her clothes, not like fire, not like heat, like light entering her body. And then it's gone. Cass gasps, staggers, and behind her, the birch trees start to shimmer. You're not blinking, but for a second, the forest around you changes. The trees are younger. The air smells of smoke. You hear bells and horses, and somewhere far off, a girl humming. Then it all vanishes, back to now, but Cass is still staring, wide-eyed, at something none of you can see. And her voice, when she speaks again, is not entirely hers. She's waiting, she says, and we're late. The problem with moments like this, where reality hiccups and someone you trust suddenly speaks with someone else's voice, is that your brain doesn't want to accept it. It tries to explain. Oh, she's messing with us. Oh, she's just in shock. Oh, that lantern wasn't actually inside her chest. But every cell in your body knows. Something ancient just tapped Cass on the shoulder and stepped inside. She's waiting, she repeats, but quieter now. Her voice loses its edge, slumping back into her usual cadence. She shakes her head like she just woke up from a dream. I don't know why I said that. Nobody does. But you're all thinking the same thing. You saw it too, the light, the change in the trees, the brief, shimmering flicker of then bleeding into now. You pull out the journal again, the page you just read, Clara's buried brooch, the diagram of the six-pointed star, has changed. Another paragraph has appeared. I brought her the page, it reads. I followed the signs. She was pleased. She said the hollow remembers obedience. Mira backs away. shaking her head. Nope. No. This isn't just a story. It's doing something. This is like when people play with Ouija boards and suddenly their house is haunted. Devin forces a laugh. Okay, yeah. Except this is an old girl's diary and we're not asking questions. We're just trespassing on witch turf and making poor choices. Totally different. But then Sarah speaks, low and serious. We need to know who Clara Bell really was. And for once, everyone agrees. So you do the only logical thing. You hike out of the hollow, hike fast and silent, until the trail widens and the trees begin to thin. Nobody says a word until you hit the edge of town, back in the range of signal and porch lights and the comfort of paved roads. It feels like crossing a barrier, like leaving one world for another. Cass is pale but lucid again. She doesn't mention the lantern, or the voice, or the burning feeling she says is still in her chest. You split up briefly, Sarah and Devin to check the county records online, Mira and Milo to question their grandmother, who once told them, never trust a hollow girl. You and Cass head to the local history room at the library, which hasn't been updated since someone installed the CD-ROM section in 1998. There, amid the dust and crinkled folders, you find her. Clara Ann Bell. Born 1845. Died unknown. She's listed as the daughter of Reverend Thomas Bell, who served in Widow's Hollow from 1857 to 1863. The records are thin. A single faded photo shows a girl with dark hair and serious eyes, standing beside a stern-faced man with a clerical collar. Clara wears a brooch, the same brooch. Gotcha, Cass murmurs. The records list Reverend Bell's resignation in 1863. No explanation given. But someone, years later, added a note in pencil. Left following the hollow collapse. You glance up. Collapse? Cass frowns. Like a mine? But no, the hollow never had a mine. It had a chapel, a small settlement, and an orchard. Nothing large scale. Yet the term appears again in a weathered news clipping you find pinned to the back of the file. Mysterious ground. Collapse claims chapel. 3 homes. No bodies recovered. Date, October 1863, exactly 2 years after Clara's first journal entry. You feel a chill. You think she was still alive when it happened? Cass's lips pressed together. She's thinking harder than you've ever seen her think. Or maybe she wasn't. Not fully. You scan the article again. One line stands out. Eyewitnesses report strange light in the woods the night before the disaster. The lantern. Of course. Back at Mira's house, she's got something even better. Her grandmother's scrapbook. Turns out, Nana used to collect oral folklore like it was baseball cards. She even indexed them. There's a whole page dedicated to the Hollow Witch. The stories differ wildly. In one, Eloise Harrow is a midwife who helps women in secret and is punished for her power. In another, she's a revenant, something brought back from death to exact vengeance on the preacher who wronged her. In yet another, She's neither victim nor villain, but something older, an entity born from the land, using Clara to gain form. Historians still argue whether Eloise was even a real person, Mira's grandmother says from her recliner without even looking up from her knitting. But Clara, she was real, and she wasn't the last girl to see the lantern. She lets that sit, then adds, just the only one who left a warning. You all gather again at Cass's place, piecing together everything. Clara's diary, the glowing lantern, the brooch, the diagram, the collapse. And the fact that the story isn't stuck in 1861 anymore. It's moved forward. It's in you. You flip open the journal. The ink is still shifting, like wet paint being written by invisible hands. She said the others must come, one for each point, one for each gift, or the lantern won't rest. Cass reads it aloud, and then points at each of you in turn. 6 tips on the star, she says. 6 of us, Devin groans. I'm not a gift. I'm a bad decision wrapped in hoodie lint. Mira says, this isn't funny. No, you say, staring at the final line of the page. It now reads, you've awakened the pact, and beneath that, just 2 words, begin again. You can't remember when the air stopped moving. When you read those 2 words, begin again, it's like the world tightens around you. Cass doesn't say anything. She doesn't have to, because you all know what's next. You're going back, not out of thrill or curiosity, or even to finish what you started. You're going back because the Hollow has you, all of you. Hook, line, and flickering lantern. The walk through the woods is different now. No joking, no dares, just the shuffle of shoes and dry leaves underfoot, and the growing sense that you're walking deeper into something that no one ever walks out of. The Hollow welcomes you like it knows your names. Cass leads, journal in hand, following the diagram's second point, fire. She stops in the clearing where she saw the lantern pass through her chest, eyes scanning for something that isn't there anymore. This is the place, she whispers. Devin takes out the flashlight again. It works now, because of course it does. The Hollow gives back just enough to keep you from leaving. The light finds something embedded in the dirt, a ring of blackened stones, hidden beneath moss. Charcoal bits lie scattered inside the circle, as if a fire once burned there and never truly went out. You step forward. So does Cass. Her fingers trail the edges of the ring. The stones pulse faintly, warm under her touch. And then the air changes. You feel heat, not from the stones, but from below. The forest floor breathes upward, thick with the scent of pine pitch and something sharper. Sulfur? No. Old paper. Burnt wax. Cass reads aloud from the new page in Clara's journal. She said the fire doesn't give warmth, it takes memory. That's its hunger. I gave it my name. That was the price to begin the binding. You glance around. You think that's what she did? She gave up her identity? Sarah's voice is a whisper. Is that what the pact is? Forgetting who you were? Before anyone can answer, Mira shrieks. Her backpack, hanging from a branch, is smoking. No, not smoking, smoldering. You rush to pull it down. Inside is a thick book she brought, a local folklore compilation. The pages have burned in a perfect circle. Only the center remains untouched, like the fire knew where to aim. It's not random. The fire spared a page. Cass unfolds it. It's a retelling of a 19th century folk ritual, a charm for revealing the truth buried beneath deceit. 6 participants, 1 at each point of a drawn hexagram, a sacred item buried at the center. The fire is not for light. It is for binding. Sarah murmurs, "Binding what?" Devin reads the last line. "Beware the mirror. It reflects what lies unsealed." You make camp, not because you want to, but because Clara's journal now insists, rest, or you will forget. You huddle around the circle of stones, a fire crackling reluctantly to life at its center. The flames rise, but offer no heat. Instead, one by one, you begin to remember things you never knew you'd forgotten. Devin recalls a nightmare he had every night as a child, about a woman with no face who stood at the end of his bed. Mira suddenly hums a tune she doesn't remember learning, the same one Clara described in the journal. Milo begins sketching the 6-pointed star on a napkin with a kind of muscle memory that makes his hand shake. It's not just remembering, it's returning. And Cass stares into the fire and starts speaking again in that not quite her voice. She was betrayed, she says, by her father, by the town, by Clara most of all. The pact was meant to protect her, but it became a trap. You press her. Clara made a deal to save her? Cass nods slowly. To save herself. And when she tried to take it back, the Hollow refused, because the pact remembers. It's quiet for a long time. Then Sarah says what none of you want to admit. We're not reenacting the story. We're completing it. That night, you dream in pieces. You're in the chapel before it collapsed. The walls are made of salt-stained stone. Candles drip upside down from the ceiling. You see Clara kneeling at the altar, her hands bloody, the brooch glowing on her chest. You see Eloise behind her, her eyes blank and wide and ancient. Not a woman anymore, but something born of forest and flame and betrayal. You wake with the smell of smoke in your hair. Cass opens the journal. There's a new page. I tried to unbind her. I failed, but I have marked the points. If they come again, if they give their names, their blood, their truth, she may sleep again. You reread the last line twice. She may sleep again. Not she may die. Not she may be destroyed. Because the Hollow doesn't destroy what it loves. It keeps forever. You spend the morning pretending the fire didn't whisper your name, that the smoke didn't form a face, that the air didn't carry the taste of iron and old promises. But the Hollow isn't pretending. It remembers. Cass is the first to move. She flips the journal, fingers scanning the diagram again. Next point, she says. Voice. Devin immediately groans. Cool. Can't wait to give my voice to a haunted forest. That's definitely how I imagine dying at 16. No one's dying, Cass mutters, but even she doesn't sound convinced. You follow the birch-lined path that leads deeper into Widow's Hollow, past a dried creek bed, through a thicket that looks like it's never been touched by sunlight. The air gets heavier here, thick like syrup, and then you hear it. A voice, not a whisper, not a scream, a girl singing, no words, just melody, soft and circular, the kind of tune you hum without knowing where it came from, the kind that gets stuck in your head even though you've never heard it before. Mira stops cold. That's the one. What? That's the song Clara mentioned. I dreamed it last night, but now it's real. The sound draws you forward. You reach a low, moss-covered rise and find a hollowed-out tree. Inside on the bark is a message. Speak what you gave up. No instructions, no explanation. Just those 5 words. Sarah frowns. What does that mean? Cass turns the journal. The entry has shifted again. Eloise made me speak what I buried, the words I'd swallowed, the names I never said aloud. I gave her my silence, and in return, she gave me a voice that could call her back, always. The others look around. So, we talk? Devin rolls his eyes. Cool. Hi, cursed tree. I gave up my Hot Wheels collection in 4th grade and my dignity in 7th. But nothing happens. Cass steps forward. Her hand brushes the bark. I gave up music, she says. After Mom left, I stopped singing. I stopped writing. I buried it. The air hums. Devin stares. Did you guys feel that? The tree pulses, faintly, like breath. Cass turns to you. Your turn. You hesitate. What did you give up? You think back. Flickers of memory. The way you stopped praying after your grandfather died. The way you stopped believing in anything you couldn't see. The way you started carrying a flashlight, even during the day, just in case. I gave up trust, you say. The hum deepens. One by one, the others speak. Mira, I gave up friendship. I let someone go because I didn't want to hurt. Milo, I gave up truth. I lie so people won't ask questions. Sarah, I gave up fear. Or maybe it gave me up. Devin pauses longest, then says, I gave up caring. It felt easier to laugh than admit I was drowning. And with that, the tree opens, not like bark splitting, but like reality folding. A panel of light flickers into view. It shows a room, stone walls, flickering lanterns, the same chapel from your dream. And inside, Clara, or something shaped like her. She's sitting in a pew holding the journal, but when she looks up, her eyes are empty, not blank, just drained, like whatever spark had once lived inside her had long since been siphoned out. Cass gasps. She's still here. You reach out. The light pulses. Do not speak her name, the journal now warns. But it's too late. Cass whispers, Clara. The vision shatters. You're thrown backward. Wind knocked out of you, branches scratching your arms. The light collapses into sparks, and the tree closes like it was never anything but wood. The only thing left behind is a single word scrawled into the dirt in ash. Soon, Mira helps you up. Did we just contact her? Devon nods slowly. I think we just gave her our voices. Cass reads from the journal, one final note that wasn't there a moment ago. Now she knows you. Now she will listen. And what listens, learns. There's a long pause. Then Sarah says what you're all thinking. We gave her everything she needs to finish the pact. Milo adds, we're not the ones telling this story anymore. You head back toward camp in silence. Above you, the clouds roll in, not gray, but copper, like they're catching fire from the inside. The wind returns, bringing with it the scent of something old and wet and wrong. Not rot, not rain. It smells like church. And just before the trees thicken again, you spot it. The lantern, not hovering now, but sitting on the stump of a felled tree, waiting. Cass picks it up. No hesitation. It flares to life in her hand, and her eyes go dark. Cass doesn't scream, doesn't drop the lantern, doesn't stagger or fall or cry out. She just stills. Her breathing slows. Her shoulders rise, then sink in a way that feels mechanical. She stands there, bathed in flickering light, eyes black as soot, and for one long second, she looks older. Not in her face, her expression hasn't changed, but in her presence, like something that doesn't belong in a 16-year-old body is suddenly trying it on for size. The lantern's flame flickers violently once, then settles. Cass, you whisper. She blinks, slowly, then smiles. Not a friendly smile. Not a don't worry smile. It's the smile of someone who already knows how this ends. She remembers, Cass says, and now, so do I. Then she drops the lantern. It doesn't fall. It hovers and begins to float, drifting just a few inches above the forest floor, like it did the first night. Only now, instead of pulling you forward, it begins circling, tight loops around the group, each orbit faster than the last. The air warps, not visibly, but you feel it, like gravity's got a bad signal. She's binding us, Mira says, voice tight. This is one of the star's points. Voice, memory, now motion. Look at how it moves. Devon squints. Okay, but why does a witch spirit need to trap us in a magical forest diagram? Sarah sighs. Because apparently, we're the human equivalent of ritual batteries. The lantern halts midair and flares once, lighting the clearing like a flashbulb. Then it drops, and with it, Cass collapses. You run to her. Her pulse is there, but faint. Her skin is cold, too cold, and her breath comes shallow. You look around, expecting to see something, anything, but the woods have gone quiet again, except for one thing, the sound of pages turning. You whip around. The journal, splayed open on the moss, is flipping itself, one page, then another, then it stops. The ink glistens like it was just laid down. The voice was given. The mirror comes next. You all stare at one another. Cass stirs. "Don't look," she whispers. "She's in the glass." Mira gasps. The mirror point. It's literal. You don't waste time. You dig into your pack and pull out a compact mirror, one that's cracked down the center. You hold it up slowly. At first you see nothing but trees. Then, just for a second, you see something behind you in the reflection. A woman, pale, hollow-eyed, hair like dried thistle, not moving, not blinking, just watching. You whip around. Nothing there. Devin curses under his breath. "You think that's her? Eloise?" "No," Mira says. "It's Clara, or what's left of her," Sarah adds. "Or maybe they're the same now. Maybe the pack merged them." That stops everyone. Cass sits up slowly, her face pale and drawn. "She showed me the hollow, the real one, what it was before the collapse, and what it is now." You ask the only question that matters. "What did you see?" Cass looks at you. A chapel made of bone, lanterns that don't burn, they bleed, and voices, dozens, stuck in the dirt, like seeds that never got to grow. Mira shivers. "They're still here." Cass nods. "Clara didn't bind Eloise. Eloise bound Clara. And every full moon, she replays the story, so someone new might break the pattern." Sarah frowns. "So what? We're just the latest cast?" Cass doesn't answer, because behind you, a shadow shifts. You turn. The trees are changing again, just at the edges. Younger, straighter, as if the forest is shedding years like dead bark. You hear a distant bell, hoofbeats, a hymn sung too slow, in a key no one uses anymore. Time is unraveling. The journal flips again. The mirror is not a reflection of self. It is a window to the time of binding. Devin says, "If we're going to break this thing, maybe we have to go back to when it started." "Or forward," Cass mutters, "to where it ends." Either way, you've reached the halfway point. 3 tips on the star remain: bone, blood, memory. You look down. The journal has added one more line. One of you will not leave the hollow. The hollow doesn't lie. That's the worst part. It doesn't bluff, doesn't mislead with half-truths or tricks. It simply states the thing that will happen and then waits to be right. One of you will not leave the hollow. You try to breathe normally, like that sentence isn't now carved behind your eyes, like it's not counting each of you silently, like a butcher choosing which cut to keep. But the air is thick again. The leaves feel sharper. Even your own heartbeat seems louder. Devon breaks the tension the only way he knows how. Well, not it. Sarah glares at him. Seriously? Sorry, he mutters. Nervous energy. We're being hunted by forest ghosts and time loops. I cope with sarcasm. You scan the diagram again. 3 points remain. Bone, blood, and memory. But the journal flips itself once more. New ink bleeds across the paper. Memory first, because she must remember what she was before she became what she is. You read it aloud. Mira swallows hard. So, where do you find a memory? Devon answers, in a place no one visits anymore. Which is how you end up hiking east toward a part of the Hollow, marked in older maps as Bell Orchard. Nobody's been there in decades, not since the roots swallowed the last visible rows of trees. The orchard wasn't large, just a dozen apple trees, Clara once mentioned in an earlier entry, but they were hers. She carved her initials into one, a heart. The date, October 17th, 1861, the exact date today. Because of course it is. You break through bramble and gnarled brush and find the clearing. Most of the trees are dead, or maybe just sleeping forever. Their limbs twist into the sky like arms, asking a question no one will answer. The ground is littered with fallen apples, some shriveled, some fresh, despite the rock. Impossible. Wrong. The journal instructs she hid the memory beneath her heart. Cass points to one tree, still upright, though split down the center by a bolt of old lightning. You don't need to say it aloud. You feel it. This is the one. You dig at the roots. It doesn't take long to find it. A tin locket, rusted at the hinge, nestled in a jar, filled with dirt and what looks like hair. You pry it open. Inside, a photo of Clara, young, uncertain, and next to it, a pressed bloom of apple blossom, blackened with time. You blink, and when your eyes open again, the world has changed. The orchard is full, green, vibrant, sunlight everywhere. And Clara stands before you, not ghostly, not monstrous, just tired. She looks at you and speaks, but the sound is distant, like hearing underwater. Her lips move in slow, silent syllables. Then she raises one hand and points at your chest. You glance down, and the brooch, her brooch, is on you. You blink again, and you're back. Same orchard, same dying trees. Only now, everyone is staring at you. Cass whispers, she chose you. You want to laugh, or scream, or throw the locket into the trees and run until the forest stops. But you don't, because the locket is warm, because the journal just turned again. The pact holds best through memory. She is learning yours. Mira murmurs. If she knows our memories, she'll know our weaknesses. Sarah says, or our regrets. Devon adds, that explains the dreams. You nod slowly. It does. Each night, The dreams have grown stronger, clearer. Sometimes they aren't dreams at all, but full memories. Yours, yes, but twisted, bent, as though Clara or Eloise or whatever still stirs inside the hollow is rewriting them. Cass takes the journal again. 2 more, she says. Blood and bone. Everyone goes quiet, because now we're getting into it. Ritual territory. The kind of things that leave scars. Cass continues reading. Blood was the first gift ever offered in the hollow. 1 drop to seal it, 6 to finish it. Great, Milo mutters. Blood magic. Totally healthy. Very normal. Devon offers, okay, but just a drop, right? He's joking, but the journal answers for him. 6 drops, 1 from each. You look at the others, then one by one, silently, you each find something sharp. Not deep cuts, just enough. You press your drops into the soft dirt where the orchard's heart once beat. The ground sizzles faintly, like fat on a skillet, then goes still. And the locket? Gone. Vanished from your hand. The journal doesn't flip. It doesn't need to. The page is already filled. 1 remains. Bone. And under it, in smaller text, the place where she died. You all look at one another. The chapel. The real one. Not in dreams. Not in visions. It's time to go underground. Back to where the ground collapsed. Back to the place where Clara made her final choice, and where one of you may not return. You've known from the beginning that the chapel would be the end, ever since that first night when the lantern appeared and the dirt swallowed light without a shadow. You felt its pull like a thread knotted around your ribs. Now, with 5 points of the hexagram awakened, the hollow no longer hides the path. It clears it. Trees lean away, roots uncurl, and there it is, a depression in the earth, shaped like an open mouth. The remnants of the old chapel lie half buried in soil and time, rotted wood, shattered stained glass, and beneath it all, stairs, stone, worn thin by centuries, just visible enough to make your stomach twist. The journal quivers in Cass's hands as she reads. The last point is bone, not just hers, ours. The bones of all who watched and did nothing, who stayed silent, who let it happen. You all descend slowly, flashlights dulling the deeper you go. The temperature drops, but not in a normal way. This isn't cold that makes you shiver. It's stillness, like time doesn't breathe here. At the bottom, you find what's left of the chapel. The floor is dirt. The walls curve around in a rough hexagon, barely holding back the weight of the earth. It's less a building now than a wound. At the center stands an altar, not wood, not stone, bone, human, arranged with horrifying precision. Femurs for legs, a breastbone for the tabletop, skull fragments fused together with what looks like black wax. Cass exhales. This is where the pact was bound. You approach the altar. There's something resting atop it. A book bound in stitched leather. A second journal. You open it. It's blank. And then Clara's voice, not on the page, but in the room, says, "Someone must finish the story." You freeze. It echoes. The others look at you, but their mouths don't move. Their eyes widen. Then slowly, one by one, they vanish. Not violently, just disappear, like smoke exhaled too long. Now you're alone. The journal is no longer blank. It reads, "She offered me safety. I offered her silence. In the end, I took both. I gave her my voice, my blood, my bones. I gave her the story." You whisper into the dark, "Clara," and she answers, not from above, but from below. The ground trembles. A hand emerges from the dirt beside the altar. Not skeletal, not rotten, alive. It claws up, then another follows. And then Clara pulls herself into the room. Her hair is matted with soil, her dress soaked in age and regret. Her eyes are hollow, but aware. She looks at you, and something inside you recognizes her. She was never meant to be the villain. She was the first victim. And now, she says, "You can take my place." You step back. No. You followed the path. You read the words. You summoned the memory. That's the cost. The cost of what? Unbinding her. And then you hear the other voice. Soft, cold, familiar in its wrongness. "Eloise, you can leave," it whispers, "but only if someone stays." Behind you, the wall splits open. A tunnel leads upward. Light filters in. Moonlight. Real air. The surface. But your friends are gone. And the journal has one final line. The pact ends when one writes the last page. You glance at the journal again, at the blank final sheet, and then a pen appears, not placed, grown from bone and ash and ink. You pick it up and you write, "I will remember." The altar groans, the tunnel closes, and your friends blink back into the room like the last 10 minutes never happened. They see you, standing there, still whole, still you. Cass runs to you. "You okay?" You nod. The journal is gone, but a mark, like a tiny 6-pointed star, is now burned into your palm. Mila whispers, "Did it work?" You don't know. But above you, the lantern glows once more, just one final time. It rises and then vanishes. When you climb out of the chapel, it feels like surfacing from water. The air rushes in too fast, too loud, too alive. You squint against the moonlight. It's still full, still high, but everything feels lighter, like the forest's jaw has unclenched. The hollow lets you go. You don't run. You walk, quietly, together. Nobody speaks until you reach the ridge that overlooks the orchard, now just withered trees again. No voices, no glowing lights, no whispers from the dirt. Mira says it first. "So, that's it?" Cass shakes her head. No, it's paused. You glance down at your hand. The mark, the six-pointed star, still glows. Faintly. It doesn't hurt. Not anymore. It just is. A reminder. A receipt. The journal is gone. So is the altar. So is Clara. Or maybe not. Because when you reach the base of the ridge, Devin stops in his tracks. Guys? He points to a tree, carved into the bark. Thank you. Below it, the initials, C.B. And beside them, a single apple blossom, fresh, blooming, even though it's October. You camp that night in silence, not because you're afraid, but because it finally feels safe enough not to talk. And yet, sleep doesn't come easy, because the dreams are different now. You see the hollow, but it's brighter, untangled. You see Clara, not as a ghost, or a servant, or a victim, but a girl, walking barefoot through the orchard, humming a melody that no longer loops in sorrow. And in the chapel, the altar is gone. In its place, wildflowers. Morning comes. The sun burns away the mist faster than usual. Birds actually sing. Devin pretends not to get emotional about it. Sarah doesn't pretend. When you reach the road, you expect the forest to call after you, to whisper, to remind you it's still there. It doesn't. The silence feels like a blessing. You go home, but not all the way, because home has changed. You catch yourself glancing at mirrors a little longer than necessary, listening to the woods when you pass them, waking from dreams you can't remember, with a name on your tongue you didn't say aloud. And the hollow, it's still there, waiting, because the pact never truly ends. It just resets. You gather again 2 weeks later, under a crescent moon, not because of obligation, but because part of you is afraid not to. You meet at Cass's house. She's been quieter lately, but more herself somehow, like something inside her unraveled and rethreaded. You sit around a real fire, this time in a backyard fire pit with marshmallows and too many blankets. It feels normal. It feels almost boring, until Cass pulls something out of her pocket, a page from the journal. She found it stuck to the inside of her boot weeks after you burned the orchard ground. It reads, "If one breaks the circle, she forgets. If all forget, she wakes." Everyone goes quiet. Then Devin, voice low, asks, "So what now?" You think about it, then say, "We remember." And you do. You keep the story alive, not to honor it, not to worship it, but to bind it with memory, with breath, with voice. Because the hollow doesn't feed on death. It feeds on silence, and you will not be silent. The story should end there, shouldn't it? Lantern fades, the hollow slumbers, everyone goes home wiser and slightly traumatized. But that's not how it works. Not here. Because stories born in the hollow don't end. They cycle. And lately, the cycle's been waking up faster. It begins with the dreams again. Milo's the first to mention it, casually at first, like he's hoping it's just coincidence. Been having that dream again, he says, during a walk home from school. The orchard's back, full bloom. But this time, it's on fire. Cass nods. Me too. Then Mira, except in mine, it's snowing. You think about your own. You haven't told anyone yet that you've started sleepwalking. Twice this week you've woken up on your porch, barefoot, cold, holding a pine branch that wasn't from any tree nearby. You live in town. There shouldn't be pine branches. And there's a new page. You found it folded in your pillowcase 3 days ago. You knew the texture immediately. Waxy, old, like Clara's journal. It wasn't written in ink. It was written in ash. It says, "The hollow stirs. Something else wants in. You haven't told the others yet, but you can feel it. The rhythm is off. The story's changed key. Something is pushing through now. Not just replaying the past, but reaching outward. And you start to wonder, maybe Clara was just the first crack. Maybe the pact wasn't broken, just softened, like wood that's been soaked, ready to be carved again. Then, on the next full moon, it happens. The lantern comes back, but not floating this time. It sits, solid, on your front steps. No flame inside, just a hollow shell. Its glass panes cracked, its handle bent. You pick it up without thinking, and for a moment, everything goes silent. No street noise, no wind, not even the buzz of power lines. Then a voice speaks, not aloud, but inside your skull. Finish what you started. It's not Clara. It's not Eloise. It's something else. You drop the lantern. It doesn't break. You call Cass. She answers on the first ring. It's back, she says. I know. I think there's another. What do you mean? In the diagram. We thought it was 6 points, but there's a 7th. I didn't see it before, but when I looked at the rubbing I made of the diagram, there's a faint mark. A 7th flame. You close your eyes. What does it mean? She's quiet. Then softly, the lantern wasn't just a marker. It was a lock. A pause. And someone just turned the key. The next night, the wind changes. It howls in the trees, high and shrill and too human. You hear laughter, childlike, but broken. A shadow crosses the street in front of your house, even though nothing's there. You open your door. The lantern's gone, but in its place, a single bloom, apple blossom, same as before. Only this time it's made of paper, and on it, written in the same scorched hand, she has a name, and she remembers you. You don't sleep that night. Not really. You doze with one eye open, heart ticking too loud, trying to convince yourself the blossom on your porch was a prank, a coincidence. But you know better. You remember better. The next morning, you meet the others at the edge of Widow's Hollow. Nobody had to call it. You all just showed up, like the forest had whispered it to you in the space between dreams. Cass brings the rubbing of the original diagram. You lay it flat on the ground, weighed down with stones. There it is, 6 points, clearly marked. And now, the 7th, faint, hidden beneath folds of wax and time. Sarah frowns. What's that one say? It takes some effort to read the faint scrawl at the 7th tip. Name. Devon shudders. What does that even mean? Cass answers without looking up. The one we never spoke. Mira's voice is barely a whisper. The one Clara never wrote. You all stare at the 7th point. Eloise had a name, but it wasn't hers. Clara wrote everything but that. She gave her voice, her blood, her bones, but not the name. She buried it. The final seal. You flip back through memory, through dream fragments and journal lines, trying to find what Clara never said. A true name, a binding name, because in every tradition, pagan, folkloric, or whispered on porches, names carry power, and the wrong one can unmake everything. The forest watches. You feel it, heavy and quiet, like a crowd holding its breath. Cass opens her mouth. I think I know it. You all turn to her. Clara called her Eloise, she says, but that was what the town called her, a name of fear. Sarah says, what are you saying? She had another name, Cass says, before the flames, before the pact. You ask, how do you know? I didn't, Cass says, until last night. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out something wrapped in cloth, unfolds it. It's the brooch, the same one. You gasp. I thought it was gone. So did I, she says, but it came back in my hand with a dream. And she tells you. In the dream, Clara sat at the bone altar, alone, crying. She held the brooch to her chest and whispered a name, not out of fear, but of grief. And the forest listened. Cass speaks it now. A nail. Not Eloise. A nail. The sound of it hangs in the air, soft, bright, and wrong in the best way. It doesn't burn. It calms. The forest shifts. You feel it like a wave washing through the roots, across trees, through stone, into bone and ash and memory. Something responds. From the depths of the hollow, the lantern reappears. It flickers to life, gently, without menace. And then, impossibly, it speaks. A voice you've never heard before. Gentle, worn. Thank you. Then the light rises high. So high it disappears into the canopy, and something unfolds inside each of you. Like pressure easing, like breath returning, like the pact finally releasing. Cass wipes her face. I think it was never about binding her. Milo nods slowly. It was about remembering her right. Devon lets out a long breath. So, it's over? You're not sure, but the hollow is quieter now. Not empty, just still. You each look down at your palms. The six-pointed star is still there, but it's faded. Not glowing. Just a scar. And on the rubbing, the seventh point glows faintly for just a second, then vanishes. The diagram becomes whole, then blank. No more instructions, no more pages, just wind in the trees, and the sound of the hollow finally exhaling. You leave Widow's Hollow for the final time, not with fear, but with reverence. It doesn't feel like escaping anymore. It feels like visiting a grave after years of silence, finally saying what needed to be said. The trees no longer lean in. They sway gently, as though the forest itself is stretching after a long, stiff sleep. No lantern follows you. No voices whisper. And yet, you know it's not gone. It's just finished. For now. Life doesn't resume exactly the way it was. That's the thing about being part of something ancient. It changes how you see everything. You walk softer. You listen longer. You dream deeper. Cass starts singing again, quietly at first, humming as she walks between classes, scribbling lyrics into the margins of her notebooks. Her voice is clearer now, like something that had been trapped in her ribcage, finally let go. Devin volunteers at the library. He's not sarcastic about it. He spends hours sorting the old archives, copying articles, making timelines, in case someone else forgets, he tells you. Sarah starts collecting stories, folk tales, ghost legends, handwritten notes from old townspeople. I want to know how truth becomes myth, she says. Mira and Milo start mapping. Not just the hollow, everywhere. Abandoned paths, forgotten trails, places where stories once lived but were paved over. Their room looks like a conspiracy theory, but with more string and better handwriting. And you write. Not a journal, not a diary, a ledger of names, dates, dreams. Each page a tether, each word a thread. Because you know now, what's remembered doesn't rot. It roots. And deep below Widow's Hollow, those roots still hold tight. Sometimes at night, you feel it. Not fear, just weight. A pulse in the earth. Not threatening, just watching, honoring. But once, just once, you wake to find a single bloom on your windowsill. Apple blossom, fresh. And beneath it in faint, fading ink, memory is safe. Thank you. Autumn fades, and with it, the hollow's grip loosens. Trees shed their leaves in soft, amber waves. The trail you once feared now looks like any other path through any other woods. Quiet, serene, unremarkable. And maybe that's the final magic of the place. It disappears when it's done with you. Still, you find yourself glancing at calendars more often now, counting lunar cycles, watching clouds move like clock hands across the sky, just in case. Cass is the first to suggest returning, not to break another pact, not to chase another shadow, but to thank it. You bring a small offering, each of you does, a piece of something you've reclaimed. Cass places a torn lyric sheet, rewritten and complete. Devon sets down an old family photograph, his real smile returned. Sarah brings a bundle of hand-bound folk tales. Mira and Milo leave a painted map, the Hollow, restored from memory, trails charted and named. You offer your own, one page from your ledger, blank, save for one thing, we remember. You leave it where the brooch first lay, under the roots now dry and still. There's no flash of light, no sound, no haunting, just wind in the trees, gentle and steady, and stillness. You turn back, heart lighter than it's been in weeks, but you can't help glancing over your shoulder one last time. The Hollow watches, not as a hunter, but as a witness. It knows you now, and you know it. Back in town, you notice subtle changes. People are kinder. Stranger stories get remembered. The local museum finally adds a plaque about Clara Bell. No one knows who submitted the entry. Cass just smiles. One night, weeks later, Mira calls you in a hushed voice. You need to come to the chapel. You hesitate. I thought it collapsed. It did, she says. But you need to come anyway. You meet her at the edge of the orchard. The trees are bare again, silhouettes against a sharp winter sky. She leads you to where the bone altar once stood. It's still gone, but in its place, a tree, young, vibrant, apple blossoms forming, even though it's December. At its base, a plaque. Here lies Clara Bell. May she sleep in light. You ask, did you put this here? Mira shakes her head. Neither did anyone else. You step closer. The tree rustles in the wind, just once. And then, from the shadows, the faintest flicker. The lantern, only for a heartbeat, then gone. No chase, no warning, just a nod, a farewell. You walk home in silence, and that night, you sleep soundly for the first time since the journal opened. Winter presses down on the town like a soft wool blanket. Snow dusts the roof lines. The roads get quiet. Even the wind through the hollow hushes, like it's waiting for you to speak before it makes another move. But you don't return. You don't have to. The hollow knows your name. You've earned rest. The dreams, when they come now, aren't warnings. They're memories, real ones. You see Clara before the pact, running through her orchard, barefoot, her face flushed with laughter, not fear. You see Eloise, not shadowed, not scorched, but whole, tending to herbs, smiling at someone just out of view. Sometimes in those dreams, they wave to you. Other times they simply nod because they remember you too. In school, Sarah writes a report on forgotten women of history. Devin starts a podcast. Mira and Milo create an online archive of lost towns and half-told tales. Cass sings in public again. At a winter concert, she debuts a song titled Lantern Light. It isn't about ghosts. It's about letting go. And you keep writing. The ledger is half full now, pages lined with truth and twilight. No one else needs to read it. That's not the point. You're not preserving the past. You're anchoring it, keeping it from drifting into silence. Because if the Hollow taught you anything, it's this. Silence is where forgetting begins. And forgetting is how the lantern wakes. A month after the concert, you get a letter. No return address, no stamp, just a single page. It's old, folded twice. It smells faintly of apples and ash. You open it. In elegant, careful script. The fire is quiet. The roots sleep, but they dream of names. Beneath it, the initials. C.B. You smile, just a little. You tuck the letter between the pages of your ledger, and you go on living. Not because it's over, but because you remembered. And the Hollow remembers, too. Now, let your shoulders loosen. Unclench your jaw. Let the rhythm of your breath match the slow and steady quiet of the forest we just left behind. The Hollow is still there, of course. Deeper than any map. Older than any town. Quieter than any truth spoken aloud. But it no longer watches you with hunger. It only watches with memory. You gave it what it needed. And more importantly, you took nothing from it. No forbidden relics. No shortcuts. Just the story, told all the way through. The flicker of that lantern, it's far behind us now. And maybe, just maybe, ahead of us too. But don't worry. You're not following it anymore. You're carrying your own light now, a gentler one, a steadier one. The kind of light that doesn't burn. It warms. It anchors. It remembers. So let yourself settle. Your journey's done for tonight. There's no pact left to unbind. No forest left to decode. Just soft wind, steady breath, and a story that finally found its end. Tomorrow, there will be other paths, other campfires, other strange echoes in old trees. But for now, there's just this moment. Stillness, safety, sleep.